sometimes it takes the live stream to kick in. Anyway, hello everyone. This is Tom, your host for the Hidden Truths channel. How's everybody doing this evening? Tonight we're going to discuss holding our politicians accountable. Anyway, I'm sick of seeing everything that's happening, and these politicians are creating the situations to make them happen, and they're not held accountable. Okay, it's crazy. But anyway, that's what we're going to discuss. If you want to fast forward about 3 minutes into the video and get started, while I wait for people to come in, I'll do a little bit of rambling, but you might want to stay for the prelude on this one, because I tell you what, I am so tired of our white culture, whites being just talked totally down upon. You know, I'm sick of I'm a bad guy because I'm white and all this stuff. White culture's bad. Whites are racist and stuff. All this crap. And the only racists I really see in this country today, I don't see a bunch of white people on TV spreading racist comments. I see a lot of other colors doing it. By the way, I'm so tired of them downplaying our culture. Like we're subhuman, as I've even heard once. And they're coming to this country for a better life. Let's see, what about that don't make sense? You're going to go to a country that you hate the people that are there, but to live a better life. Because you want to leave the shithole that you live in, that are full of the nationalities that you come from. Really? What about that makes sense? You know, you want to come to America, don't be disking our culture. Or a white-dominated country like France or England or Germany. Whatever the case may be, don't come in there and try to destroy their culture. You want to be part of the culture, right? You were trying to get away from that stuff. By the way, all I hear is insults. Whitey. I'm so tired of it. If you're coming here for a better life, then make a better life for yourself. Don't worry about what your neighbor's color is. Anyway, it's beyond stupid, okay? But this is what we're dealing with. You know, people that hate Whitey, hate America, hate what America stands for, and want to come here to have a better life in America because we have a better life. I mean, see, there's so much mental illness going on in the world. You try to rationalize how somebody can think like that. They feel like they're going to Shangri-La, but they're going to bitch the whole time they're there. Anyway, let's get on with the subject. Holding these politicians accountable when they take actions or vote on bills or whatever that cause harm to Americans. Okay, we just had another deal in Boulder, Colorado, where somebody was here illegally, overstayed his visa, and, you know, he wasn't a white guy, though. He was Egyptian. But anyway, the press had to go, the mainstream media had to go with white guy at first. But anyway, all this stuff these politicians do that affect our lives. I mean, how many other families are suffering because of illegal immigration, that their daughters got raped and murdered? Or how many people have lost family members or family members are injured because of car accidents, because of illegals that were here? Stuff where they never would have been put in that situation if we wouldn't have illegals in this country. Anyway, but when are politicians going to be held responsible? When? All they are is lining their pockets with money as the American pays for it by, you know, losing his future, and some of them pay with it with their lives. And then we got our politicians that are sitting there screaming, telling you that your neighbor's your problem, when the politician is the one that's causing all the problems in your life. You know, see, this is, people would figure out that less government in your life means less stress in your life. Wow. If you're allowed to sit there and live your life the way you want to, as long as you're respecting other people's, you know, and, you know, obviously people make bad choices, but when your bad habits or your life starts affecting other people, that's when you need to sit there and do something about it. news. Never forget 9/11. Well, like I say, my deal on 9/11 is they knew what was going on. They did nothing to stop it because they were going to use it. Never let a good crisis go to waste. And we got the Patriot Bill, and we got the internet, our war machine going. Okay, I can't think of it right now. The industrial war machine. This is my train of thought about what Eisenhower called military industrial complex. There we go. So you got all that money. Now we're spending $1 trillion plus a year on the defense budget. Wow. Daddy, are you single? Yeah, I'm single. I live out here. Yeah. Yeah, but if your dream is to live in a dugout next to a stream with your dogs and horses, living independent and stuff, if that's your dream, I'd be your man. But okay, if I'm a loner, I'm a lone wolf. But anyway, I appreciate it. But anyway, but when are we going to hold these politicians accountable? I mean, I just don't understand that people can't see that they are the ones destroying their lives with all this regulation. Well, I can't really say about laws. Is there anything really Congress has done since Trump got into office, passing laws like take vacation and stifle everything he's tried to do? Anyway, but I'm just sick of seeing this news with people dying because these politicians won't even enforce the laws that are on the books. I mean, they're hindering Trump from doing his job. And people say, well, he's deporting some people. We need to deport all of them. All of them, not just the criminals. They're all criminals. See, just the hardened criminals, because they won't say just criminals, because they're all criminals because they came over here illegally. We need to get rid of all of them. You want to come to this country, you do it the right way. All these people that have come to the country legally are getting pissed on, slapped in the face. All of our foreign workers in this country that have to do it legally through, like, out in the agriculture, we have a lot of people from a lot of nations, but they have to go through the Department of Agriculture, the FBI for a background check, and the Department of Agriculture. 3 agencies, and then they have to have before they come here, a medical policy that covers them. So how is that fair with somebody who can just walk across the border and then get a chunk of money as they're doing it? And this is the thing with these South Africans. These people were getting upset about 59 South Africans that want to make America their home, and they would have become productive Americans paying taxes and stuff, when there's over 100,000 South Africans here right now working jobs. But like I say, they have to do it legally. I guess you can't walk across the border from South Africa, can you? Anyway, if you like the content on this channel, appreciate if you hit the thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the notification bell if you would. Get the truth out. YouTube really hammers down on people that like me. I mean, I don't expect you to agree with everything I have to say, but I should have the right to say it. And people that want to hear it should have the right to hear it without having to look for buried treasure to find it. And this is the thing. I want people that don't agree with me to come here too and get all nasty in the comments. Because then we can start a discussion, a debate, a discussion. But it's hard to discuss stuff with people that the only thing they can do is insult and, that type of stuff. Throw that, you're a racist. But let's go back to getting the politicians held responsible for this stuff. I mean, look at the Epstein list. If we held the politicians accountable for breaking the law, we'd have nobody left in office. I mean, we would have no government left. I guess that would be one way to get rid of it, if we just enforced the laws and brought them to trial. And we could clean up the government just like that. We wouldn't even have to fire a shot. We'd just have to enforce the law. Wouldn't that be a great thing? But what's the FBI going to arrest itself? Anyway, the lawlessness. the lawlessness. And then, like I say, people are getting hurt. And it's I'm so sick of, it's a person. Who cares what the reason is? You had a nut that lost his mind, that decided he was going to try to set some people on fire because of their religious beliefs. That's what happened. Another human being. I don't care if he's Egyptian. I don't give a shit no more about color no more. They're another human being that's got mental issues. Every race has it. Every color has it. Hey, very important. If you were, oak trees are unforgiving. I don't understand say with that, but yeah, I know oak trees. But anyway, I want to see these politicians held accountable. I want to see these big company execs held accountable. I want these social media platform execs, CEOs and owners to be brought to trial for violating people's constitutional rights. You know, I did a video, my last live stream was how the Constitution protects people from the government. You know, if we have the Constitution reinstated, you ain't going to have 6 a.m. raids, no-knock raids at people's houses by the ATF or the FBI that kill people. You can't have that under the Constitution. Because one thing under the Constitution, people are held accountable. See, all we need to do is bring back the law of the land, the law that the founding fathers laid down to ensure everybody they could pursue their happiness, and the government stayed out of their lives. Okay? And they say, oh, slavery. Yeah, the founding fathers did want to get rid of slavery, the big ones. But because they had to form a country, and they had to please people, that Democrats that didn't want to get rid of slavery, well, they had to compromise. But let's not teach history anymore. You know, plenty of blacks fought in the revolution too for their freedom. Okay, many people from many countries came to fight in the American Revolution on America's side for the new idea for men fighting to be free. Anyway, well, that fight's coming again anyway. I mean, they're just going to push it and push it. And since we don't ever hold them accountable, you know, they're allowed to sit there and blatantly flat out do this stuff. Nobody cares. Nobody's going to do nothing. You know, I watched this video on this disturbance in Minnesota, which I'm so glad I got out of that state. Couldn't handle after George Floyd no more. But how they were going to go and, who was it? The FBI was going to go in there. Oh, it's a couple agencies. And the word went to these restaurants to arrest these bad people, close them down because they're doing shady shit. And the people of Minnesota, you know, in that area heard it was ICE. And these people are allowed now to beat on cops. I see this. The human race is just declining nothing because nobody's held responsible. Nobody is held responsible for anything they do except the working taxpayer. You better wear your seatbelt. You better pay your taxes. You better not do anything wrong. Well, we sit there and watch all this other shit, mental illness unleashed, and nobody's going to call them on it. Our justice system is corrupt. We need police reform. Well, I tell you, these cops need ego. I mean, I'm 57 years old. I remember what cops used to be like. I remember what it was like before, Bill Clinton said, hey, I need to put 100,000 more cops on the street, make the country safer. So everybody was like, yeah, that sounds cool. And they turned it into a police state. You know, back then, you know who became police chief of the town? The retired farmer. Came in town, got a house in town, he became police chief. And we didn't have crime. It's amazing. Oh, I know these cops have attitudes, big time attitudes, because what do? They go to school and party for 2 years, and then they get a gun and a badge and think they're Superman. Okay? Whatever. The state takes the time getting back to you. If your time getting back to the state, they throw you in jail. Yeah. The government doesn't have a problem throwing a law-abiding citizen in jail. We'll just make up the crime. You know, what did LeVar Berien, Stalin's secret police chief, said, show me the person and I'll show you the crime, when he was one of the biggest criminals in the country. But see, they weren't held accountable. Could you imagine, as a parent, how your kids would grow up? And we see this now with some of the kids that are growing up. If you don't hold your kids accountable for the stupid stuff they do, if you don't correct them when they're acting retarded, instead of encouraging it, anyway, but these politicians need to be held accountable. Okay, it needs to start at the house, at home. Make sure you bring your kids up right, because you don't want them living in your basement and you're feeding them 3 meals a day until the day you go to the hospital to die. You don't want to do that. You're robbing your child of his life. You know, I guess sometimes if you got to be kicked out of the nest to learn how to fly, then that's what has to happen. But, you know, these politicians, when the truth comes out, I can think of all type of stuff they could have done, but it probably won't even match what they have done. I mean, when you hear stories on the Epstein where they actually killed kids and drank their blood and stuff, and you're like, how could a human being do that? Okay? Be that twisted. And they get on TV, if they're a politician, act like they're a normal human being, knowing that they had just come from an island where they'd committed some serious, heinous crime like that. I mean, that's no conscience at all. Anyway, we need to start holding them accountable. I want to see the walk of shame by these people, and if it clears out Congress and the Senate and the presidency and whoever, they need to be held to the same extent to the law as we would. The only thing is that the average person, there's no way they could sit there and even commit some of these crimes. Even if you were that twisted in the mind, I mean, you just don't have the ability to do it. I mean, all these children that are disappearing off the street, what do you think's going to happen when the parents find out that someone went to Epstein Island and were crucified or sacrificed? What do you think those parents are going to do to the people that are guilty of that? You ain't going to be able to make a jail safe enough that will keep them alive. My friend and I went to a local mall, carried back and found somebody breaking into the car. We trapped him in the car and he got hurt, and you tried to sue us. Yeah. This is the thing. When you are committing a crime, you don't have no constitutional rights during that time. None at all during that time. You're not covered under the Constitution during the time you're committing a crime. So how the hell can he sue you? Because he doesn't have the right to sue you during that time. That's why I like living out here. Where I live, I don't have to lock my doors. I don't have to take keys out of my vehicle. I live 2.5 hours north of here, where it's more isolated. I don't have to lock my house. And I live out in the country. Those places still exist in this country. It'd be nice if they existed everywhere again, like it was when I was a kid. I don't know your rights had a pause button. No, I didn't realize, like on YouTube or social media, I didn't realize the First Amendment came with public guidelines. Since when? See, but we're allowing this. I know what my rights are. During the COVID thing, I never did nothing. I went to work every day, never ever did get sick, never wore a mask, never got shot, never social distance. And it's the only store that told me they were going to call the cops because I wouldn't wear a mask was Menards. So I'll never go back to Menards again. But you notice now that What happened to the scare? I thought half the population of the earth was supposed to be dead by now. I know I should at least be. I never even got sick. I haven't been sick in 7 years. Hello from, Italy. How you doing? I've been to Naples, Italy. Pulled in there on ship there when I was in the Marine Corps. So I spent a little time in Italy. We were only there for like 4 days, so I never got to go on any tours or nothing. But I tell you what, Europe's just a different place. If people would sit there and, because your streets are so small and stuff. I said, yeah, this place is 2,000 years old. What do you expect? Not like they had automobiles back then when they built their streets, but yeah, I'd say the drivers in Italy, though, they're a little crazy. Your mind is full of sickness. Whatever. If that's the way you feel, if you feel that me wanting you to be a free, independent person, and I'm willing to put my life on the line to make sure you have it, my kids have it, my grandkids have it. If you think I got a sick mind, then that's fine. I can't do nothing about that. I just hope you're not in my foxhole with me then. What'd you eat here in Italy? Oh, I stopped at a restaurant. I can't remember what it was, what I had. It was a pizza, some of that, but I had an actual meal too. The thing is, it was just different, okay? I think it was in Italy where I shot pool in a lot of places, but over in Europe, like in America where you shoot the ball in our pockets, you got plenty of room for that ball to go into the pocket. Not in Europe. Boy, they're just like, you got just enough room for that ball to fit into the pocket. But, I hope everything's going good there in Italy. I heard you got somebody in charge of getting your country back. There's a reason we have borders and people like going to a certain country because there's a culture they like doing it. Either they're born into that culture or they want to assimilate into that culture, not bring their culture into that country. Oh, I like that spot to live, so we're going to bring a little bit of our country and park it right there. Since when? Anyway, Europe losing, France losing this country, Germany's lost this country. This is like watching evolution working in reverse. Yeah, I'm glad you brought up that point. Okay, I was born in 1967, so I went to school in the 70s and 80s. All my teachers I had were before the United States had Department of Education, which they all quit in the 90s under Clinton. But I got an education. Our country was at its zenith at that time. I got to live the peak of our country through my teenage and early 20s. And ever since then, it's been in the decline. Yeah, we're de-evolving. I made a video about how I feel that the human race is separating into two different species now. Doesn't it seem that way? We're human beings. The over-medicated ones, the victimized ones, their brains are shutting down. They're uneducated. Teachers are quitting because the Generation Alpha, as they call them, they're out of control. They can't comprehend. They can't pay attention. You can teach them something, and 5 minutes later ask them a question what you taught, and they don't know. Yeah, we have de-evolved. Because we never held anybody accountable and we accepted all this crazy shit. Gorbachev made a speech back in 1961 and basically said, America, we're not going to conquer you with bombs. We're going to conquer you with ideas and spread our ideas so pervasively through your culture to eventually we don't have to do anything to take over. Your own people will take over. And that's what he's done. That's what's happened. That was 64 years ago he said that. How do I know that? Oh, because I got an education and I was taught how the world was. And I was taught what these people had said that said they wanted to change the world. And these politicians are just lining their pockets. The more money they can put in them before they sit there and end our country and the world, the happier they are. And we got to deal with more victims. Now the bolder victims. You know, all these people say stop the deportations. What about stop the law breaking by coming over our border illegally? And I'm sorry, you got to go. You did it. That's the end of the story. I mean, we all forgot, what was that town in Ohio? I can't remember the name of it. That was having all the problems with the Haitians. We forgot about it. What was, so what? Are you in Iraq, Syria, Afghanistan, Syria? Guess who? The culture, can you guess? Could you guess? Let me tell you something. Springfield, Ohio. I've been all over the world as a Marine. I traveled the world. And I never had a problem fitting into another culture. I never went to another culture and thought I was better just because of the United States. I never had a problem going to the average person and just talking to them and finding out what life was like there. And they'd ask me what life was like in the United States. You know, the core human being's the same. The man goes to work so he can support his family, comes home, spends time with his kids, and that type of stuff. Okay? Loves his kids just like the American loves his children just like anybody else. Wants them to live a better life than they lived. You know, the cultures are different. But see, this is the thing. That's why we have countries. So you can go to the culture you like, the United States of America. If you don't like the state that you live in, like I didn't like Minnesota because of its bozo retarded rules, I come to Nebraska, where I can ride my horse with my guns, ride right past the cop. They don't do nothing because they can see them, because they understand the Second Amendment. So I moved someplace where I didn't have to fear the government. You know, the government wants us to fear it. Why? The power comes from us. The authority comes from us, not you guys. They're expendable. I made it short that the U.S. Constitution primarily has maximum protection for the American citizen and minimum protection for the federal government. I mean, how many times does it say we're not supposed to allow government to do what they're doing to us, and when they do, we're supposed to throw them off? At least hold them accountable. Are you? Yes, I'm a veteran. I was in the Marine Corps from 1985 to 1994. So I went in, I'm a Reagan Marine. You know, maybe I don't want the stuff that I seem to be here. I don't want our country to have to deal with it, but we're dealing with it. And our politicians have brought it to us. You know, we were told we were over there doing it to keep it from coming to the United States, because I did ask the question once. To keep it over there so it's not on our soil. Look what we're dealing with now. And it was invited in. Got all these military-aged men that came from all over parts of the world with no families or nothing. Really? And then they need to be able to go into our service and learn our tactics and our equipment and learn how our military runs. That's the best thing you can do for the enemy, is train them. Especially when our military, well, used to have the best training out there. People come over to this country, they don't work one day and they get Social Security. Yeah, because we're allowing it. The American people are it's going to end up, Trump ain't going to save the country. He ain't going to be able to drain the swamp or get none of that done, okay? They'll fight him tooth and nail. And if he was getting close to succeeding, well, there'd be another Butler, Pennsylvania situation, and they wouldn't miss this time, because they'd actually have an actual sniper doing it. It's a crazy world we live in. Like I say, you watch social media, human beings are dividing. Like I say, there's one way or the other way. Okay, us hardworking ones that were brought up right, where our parents spanked us, required to us, gave us responsibility, required us to do it right, and corrected us when we were acting stupid. Okay, we're going one way, and you got the other half of the population going this victim, brainless way, but they're not educated. Okay, so everybody, I'm sure pharmaceuticals have a lot to do with this. Messing with a developing brain. You know, we didn't have that diseases when we were growing up. It was called being a kid. And parents corrected us, and teachers were still allowed to spank. So we were corrected in school too. Nowadays, anyway, you know what happens to the future of America when our children are our future and we have no future? It's crazy what's going on. And maybe I see it more because I don't live in a big city. Like I say, I live in a county that has less than 2,000 people in it. A whole county with less than 2,000 people in it. And I go work up in a county that has maybe 1,200 people in it. And it's a big county. And I'm outside looking in, and I'm an average, normal person. Everybody has their quirks, but I like to say I'm a rational thinker and stuff. Try to stay out of the, I realize I'm living in the twilight zone. But to look at this stuff and rationalize, I just can't. I just can't. But like I say, I'm on the outside looking in, and it's scary. How do some of these people go home to their families during Thanksgiving and Christmas? And they want to cut people out of their family because they voted for Trump or because they would deal with the COVID shit. But you shouldn't kick anybody out of your family. Everybody should be accepted for who they are. But, I mean, there's a lot of people out there that need help mentally. Because in 10 years, they're really going to be hurting. You want to help somebody? Be truthful with them. Try to set them on a path that isn't self-destructive. Or lean them that way. And, it's not a bad thing to tell people they're wrong. According to you. Or bring up a different way where they could deal with it. But when we live in a society where they go to a college campus and they ask college students if men can get pregnant and they don't want to answer it because they say it's too controversial of a question. And that's the college people saying that. Where are we supposed to go with that? And they all think they're so smart because they were told they were never wrong. Anyway, that's all I got for tonight. I want them to be accountable. I'm sick of watching on the news of these incidents with victims because they were victims because the person that caused it shouldn't have even been there. In so many of these instances. Those are the people. You don't think you're living on the front line of the war going on in this country? Well, there's more people every day that are living on that front line and realize it, okay? People losing their kids, losing their jobs, set on fire. They're the front lines. Like you see, the front lines ain't a line no more. You go outside and just do a circle. Do a circle. That's your front line. Everything you see around you is your front line. It's like Vietnam. Of course, I wasn't there, but, there really was no front line in Vietnam. The war was just everywhere. But the point is Jesus is Lord. Yeah, I know that. But for some people, it's easier to follow the devil. And so since we live in a lazy, easy society, you see why the devil's being taken over. Okay? You want to work for the Lord and do the Lord's work, which I find is easy anyway. But some people just can't. Living a humble life is easy, but if you're chasing that dollar bill, your humble life just went out the door. Okay? I like being, I do good. I just don't have no bills, so I don't have to make a lot of money. But I want to live a humble life. Jesus is going to come to you not as a rich man with $1 million in the bank driving a Ferrari, okay, with a business phone that ringing all the time. He's going to come to you as a humble poor man that just wants to help you with nothing in return. How are you going to handle that? And the one thing he is going to do is he's going to speak the truth. Sure didn't have a problem doing it to the bigwigs back in his day now, did he? But we got so many people here that are cowardly. Anyway, crazy world, people. All I know is you better wear your seatbelt, because if not, you better make sure your headlights are working in your vehicle. If not, I know how you can get away. Just have it illegal in your passenger seat. No, he don't speak English. He's illegal. Okay, we gotta let you go. I'm just sick. Yeah, it says love thy neighbor. I totally agree with that. That's what the Bible says. But where in the Bible does it say that I have to make sure they've got food on I have to take care of their welfare, make sure they got food on their plate, make sure they got clothes on their back? Where does it say that in the Bible? I think Jesus said, give a man a fish, feed him for a day, teach a man to fish, feed him for the rest of his life. See, that's kind of a self-sufficiency type statement. And if we got back to love thy neighbor, which I think we should too, well, then maybe we should stop listening to politicians that keep saying your neighbor's your enemy and you're supposed to hate your neighbor, whatever the reason may be. But the big reason is now because he's white. I was talking earlier, all these people, non-white people that hate America and the white culture and come to a dominated white country to live a better life is just absolutely stupid, insane. Okay, and that's supposed to make sense to me. Anyway, everybody, enjoyed you being here. Appreciate if you haven't hit the subscribe button, hit the thumbs up and subscribe. Help if you like the content. Eventually, when I start making money on YouTube, and I'm not talking money selling, I'm never going to sell anything on YouTube or nothing like that. Like these shirts I had made up on my other channel, I gave the shirts away to subscribers that I had. But, let the advertisements pay for it when the channel gets big enough. But this channel will change, and it'll get more high-tech and the studio. I need to take some computer classes to be able to do everything I want to. I do have a computer. But anyway, I want to dress up the channel and make it look more professional. And then I can get, people are interested in, I've been in business before, okay? Image is everything. And I'm just a little simple guy out here right now, with no frills or spills on his channel, but I'll get them. I'll get into introductory stuff. I just need to show people to show me how to do editing and stuff like that. Okay? And then I'll dress up the channel some, but, it all takes and time. I didn't go live last night because I was busy out fencing until 7, and then I had to come drive 2.5 hours back home. So, I was tired. But everybody have a good night. And remember, let's start, when we can make our politicians being held accountable and people start seeing what's happened to the big guy that's really the crook and stuff and thief, all this little wannabes will go away. We start enforcing the law again in this country, we'll become a safer country. Okay? And that means for all people, all Americans. And the illegals, out. Anyway, come through to this country legally like a lot of people I know do. Anyway, Everybody have a great night. I'll see you guys tomorrow night. This is Tom from the Hidden Truths. I'm out.